Hi, this is Michael Shevack, and welcome to GODSEARCH. This is podcast number 17. We're continuing our discussion of relationship priorities. We did value priorities, and we are now in relationship priorities. These two things together give you the general guidelines. So, what you can do is use your supernatural ability as a human being, as a kind of divine creature, is what we're called, made in the image and likeness of God, to sow and reap, cause and effect the kind of life that we call good. And we can contract that word into the very, very powerful word, God. Here on GODSEARCH, we just consider that an experience. The debate, what it is it real? Is it conscious? Does it know when you are naughty or nice? All these things we're going to leave off to the side, and we'll get to them later on. But the important thing is to taste the experience of goodness. That's the basic experience of God. So we've done relationship priority 1, which is when you sow and reap, you take care of yourself first. Then we did relationship priority 2. Well, you don't live on the world alone, and you have to also think, care, speak, love another person. And other, we called it. We separated those two words to confer a level of respect, spiritual integrity for another. No, it's not another, it's an other. At the same time, what we are going to do now is extend that. We hinted at it on the last podcast, but now we're going to deal with it. We're going to extend it. So anything you think, feel, say, do, or act, you try to create good, not just for yourself or an other, but for all others. All others. Now, all means all. Okay? All means all. I'm not excluding anyone here. I'm not excluding the butcher, baker, the candle maker. I am not excluding anyone. I'm not excluding your enemies. Good, the intention to produce good, has to include all. All. Now, all, let's face it, is an unimaginable word. It's just unimaginable. It's a logical nightmare because we cannot even determine all. Can you determine all the people in the room? No. If you look at all the people in the room, you will count them up and you will be able to determine every one in the room. Okay? Every one. But you will not be determining all. You can't see all. All is a logical problem. In the early 20th century, Bertrand Russell, formulated a contradiction. It's called Russell's paradox, which completely decimated the ability of mathematics to define itself as pure logic. It just blew it up. And basically, the whole issue was all is a something. You can't treat all as a something, or it contradicts the idea that the something is not knowable. It gets all messy. All is a very troublesome word. Nonetheless, it's an important word because it's a placeholder for any possible every person that you might know. Now, the Bible and the biblical tradition is very clear that you're supposed to attempt to love your enemy. Attempt it, all right? Or at least try to, all right? It's in Psalms. David talks about, loving an enemy, all right? Or forgiving an enemy. and it's in the New Testament. But that doesn't mean that you leave yourself open to destruction by an enemy. Why? Because we have relationship priority number one, which is you got to care for yourself. And you don't leave someone else unprotected from an evil act because you have to care for the other person as well and help create the God experience for another person. So you see, relationship priorities one, two, and three, they work together. They're dynamic. You're supposed to create good for yourself and other and all others, but the three have to work together or you get nightmarish contradictions, not unlike Bertrand Russell. All includes people you hate. People you hate are still people. But that doesn't mean you have to tolerate it. It doesn't mean that you poison your own relationship with life because someone else is hateful. You can't do that. Why? Because as we said from the beginning, podcast number one, the authority here is not our minds. It's not our contradictions. It's not our logical confusions. The authority here is life itself. And we seek, when you're on a God experience, we seek correctness, again from the Latin, to govern together. Correctness in how we co-govern, how we work together, how we, operate so that we can team up, so we can be part of one family, one nation, right? Even a world. All includes everyone. It includes biblically, as it's in the book of Leviticus, it includes what's called your neighbor. Some people debate what neighbor means these days. In a very pluralistic society, it means everyone. Back then, it kind of meant someone who was like you, who shared the same neighborhood, basically. Okay? A compatriot, a landsman in Yiddish, they would say a landsman. But, it became universalized. And later on in Leviticus, to just show how universal the concept always was that you have a kind of a commandment to love the stranger as well, someone who isn't your neighbor, and both the neighbor and the stranger are to be loved. All is all. It's extremely difficult. It's logically impossible to achieve. But this is the amazing spiritual power and tradition and radicalness. It's radical that the Hebrew prophets transmitted, and it was picked up in Christianity and Islam, and basically by the entire world, global democratic society, which is developing all around the world, which has picked up a lot of these biblical values. Yes, there's a little difficulties in China and other places in the world where these values are not put on the forefront. Nonetheless, these values are there and they are present and they're critically important. One should, if one wants to have the God experience or the experience called God, one should always seek to feel, think, speak, and do in a way that creates goodness, the experience called God for yourself and other and all others. Now, okay, tough talk. Religions sometimes mess things up. Okay? Sometimes with great universal vision, you're supposed to love everyone. Oh, love everyone, love, 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 love. But in that great process of vision, oftentimes you forget relationship priority number one. You love everyone, but you forget about yourself. Many, many people have this sparkling, pure, brilliant spirituality, and they neglect themselves. They neglect themselves. They don't have what they need. They don't take advantage or fulfill the full potential of who they are, which is value priority number 5. Or they live in less than ideal prosperity because they're self-sacrificing and false martyring so much to take care of everyone, all, but they don't realize that they are included in all. And in fact, value priority number 1 and number 2 are included in 3, which is a kind of summation, but it's such a broad summation that if we don't remind you to also take care of yourself and an interpersonal relationship between you and another, relationship priority 3 can become dangerously distorted, which many well-meaning religions do. They have impoverished and uneducated people who are putting the entire world before themselves. That's not the teaching here on God Search. If you like it, God bless you. Explore it. See what it does for you. Maybe you'll change my thinking, but it's not what we're teaching here. The other thing religions sometimes do, it's a kind of tribalism, is they say, yes, we're all together, but you're going to be all together my way. See, it's my way is the way God wants exclusively. So yes, we're all together. Isn't that nice? But we're all together as us. You're joining us, and then we're all together. Well, this kind of self-absorption and this kind of, distortion to evangelism. I don't mean to cause any problem out there, but it's a distortion, and I'll tell you why in a moment. Causes a lot of problems, all right? And it doesn't make a difference who does it. It can be done by Jews, it can be done by Christians, it can be done by Muslims, it can be done by American exceptionalism, meaning our way of life is the way of life that the entirety of the world should adhere to 100%. We should all be together. You know, the United States of the world is the United States of America. This is a problem. Now, the reason is because it puts value priority number 1 out of context with 2 and 3. It essentially places 1 before 3 and 3 before 1, and that inversion of value of relationship priorities, sorry, I get them confused sometimes. That inversion of relationship priority 3 with 1 and 1 with 3 causes a problem. Whenever you sow and reap something that is not aligned to how life is designed for good, it causes a problem. The problem is there to make you realize that you sowed and reaped in a way that wasn't right. So we have to be very, very careful with individual tribes or groups or nations or individual people that say, it's my way and my way is the way, come join my way. It's an excessive authority applied through one person or a sovereign nation. You know, since the Treaty of Westphalia, sovereignty for a nation is, you know, more or less the same thing as rights of the individual. You're just dealing with a collective individual. But relationship priorities 3 and 1 become inverted and it messes things up. Okay? Other people say all is take all the differences and kind of blend them together. Put them in a cosmic Cuisinart. You know, blend up this religion with this religion and this with science and this with this and create this just stunning universal soup and a big spoon and dole it out to everyone. And this is the kind of globalist scientificism, spiritual scientificism and scientific spirituality that is becoming increasingly popular, and everyone's serving it up as if it is the truth. The truth. Be very, very careful of that. All is all, but all is an impossible thing to fully know. You can know every within a certain limit, and you can know any that you happen to know. But be very careful, because when all, which is not definable mathematically, it's not. You can't know all. It's a theoretical thing, like truth. You can't prove it exists, but it has to be assumed to exist, or you can't do an equation. You can't do any scientific research. You got to assume truth, even though it's not provable. The same thing is with all. The mistake on these different viewpoints is they take something which is theoretical, which they cannot know, called all, and they apply it to a person or another. And you can't do that, because what happens is you're basically saying that all is in every. Well, all is not every, and you actually recreate in a different form Russell's paradox, and all your thinking, even your spiritual thinking, not just your mathematical thinking or your philosophical thinking, collapses. It's a problem. Religions do this all the time, by the way. Even good and noble religions, which are kind and virtuous, what happens is they assume what is not knowable, which is the end times. They call it the end times, or the eschaton. They assume that the end times, when everything on earth is resolved, and even time and space become reabsorbed into the essence and nature of God, it's very mysterious. They assume that they can project into those end times and then work backwards from those end times, consider that a goal that's real. And this is what happened many years ago with Dominion theologians, who were of the opinion that you could just ransack the entire planet because it was going to be destroyed anyway and bring about the next age of Christ. And what happens is you can't do that. You cannot project into a future that doesn't exist, assume it as a goal as you interpret it in your mind, and then decide on the earth how you're going to handle things. It gets messed up. You know, if you are, for instance, of a religion that believes that your religion is going to be the religion of the entire world, and you assume that that's how it's going to be in the future, then you go backwards, and then you start to, forcibly convert or even kill people in order to make the future vision that you have of how God is going to resolve history real. It's a logical problem. It's a logical problem. The same logical problems exist in many disciplines. I mean, it was a very interesting thing where, Hawking decided at one point in his career that the black hole was, you know, just solid. And that was it. It was complete annihilation. What goes in the black hole is absorbed, the light's absorbed, nothing comes out. There was a finality to it. Now, based upon that, if you were to create a philosophy and a political philosophy for the whole world, you have absolutely worthlessness and non-existence. So if it's non-existence, the natural philosophy that emerges from them is let's play, let's have a good time. Okay, what good does it do? There is no purpose beyond this life. It can lead to a kind of hedonism or a pleasure-based thing. What's that song? Let's live for today. La, 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 let's live for today. It's an old song. It's dating me. But that kind of insight into the world, if you go backwards and create it as a goal for what how we should govern our lives, we run into problems. And now we know that there's this thing called Hawking radiation, and there are, in fact, things that escape from black holes. There is no nothing. There is a something, and there is an everything. There's a one, there's a sum, there's every. There is theoretically some all, but we don't really know what that is. Some people like to call it infinity. It's a very strange concept. Very strange concept. So be very careful when you apply Relationship priority. It is a political nightmare. It is also the source of great prejudice. You know, all Black people do this. All, Christians do this. All gay people do this. All is an assumptive word. Use it very, very carefully. It's a dangerous word. It is as dangerous in its own way as the G word, as we talked about, the G word. All has some utility, okay, because it allows you to project. Every person should be treated with good, should be open to the experience of God. Every person. And every person I don't completely know or can't imagine or couldn't possibly know. And that's what most people call by this word all. So be really, really, really careful. Okay. All can be used as an abuse. It has a certain logical practicality in leaving a placeholder open for the unknown. But when you take it and you take all and you turn it into not a logical placeholder for what you don't know, but as a logical placeholder for everything that could possibly be in a future you cannot possibly know, it becomes idolatrous. It becomes a dangerous, poisonous way of thinking that, well, throws a virus into your computer and your computer is going to crash. The misuse of the word all is really problematic. But ethically, morally, and we'll discuss the difference between those later on, one must be good to yourself and other and all others. All right? Not make the mistake of treating all as something that's certain. Otherwise, we suffer from that kind of idealism, not ideals. They're beautiful, they're virtuous, they're dreams and desires and visions for what is human potential and potential for the entire world. But idealism, when it becomes a kind of propagandistic certainty that you apply to people, and you oftentimes you apply it forcibly because instinctually people don't trust it. It's too certain. So people don't trust it, especially if they're Americans. And freedom is a really big thing. So just remember that idealism is what happens when you take every and think that every is all. Be very careful, because if you don't apply relationship priority number 3 correctly, that's in tandem with 1 and 2 in that order, what's going to happen is you will interfere in an individual person's life in a way that is destructive. The use of relationship priority number 3 out of context with number 2 and number 1, meaning they're not in the right order, is, again, mentioned this in the last podcast, it's another one of these very subtle things that are part of the difficult and painful and egregiously contentious abortion issue. And it has never been discussed properly. All the issues in it have never been unveiled. It's just a mess of different idealisms. There are different idealisms for different mind cracks, and it's a poisonous way to go about things. In the meantime, the only thing you can say about all is that all are entitled to have, at least on this podcast, the experience of God, which, as I said, is good. It includes truth, it includes unity, and it includes, as we continue this discussion of relationship priorities, learning the good, healthy, basic guidelines by which we can sow and reap and use our creativity and our human inventiveness to create, well, heaven on earth. I don't know if you hear that in the background. There's a church bell right now. I'm in France, and right across from me is the cathedral where Joan of Arc crowned Charles. That bell just went off at that moment. It was perfect synchronicity. I wish you could hear it. I'm not very skilled on using this electronic equipment, so I can't give you a sight of it. But as soon as I, get some more sea legs in this kind of podcasting stuff, I'll take you around to where my haunts, the places I like to go. So, hey, God Search continues, and we're going to continue these relationship priorities because the value priorities and the relationship priorities together are the foundation upon which, from a simple practical point of view, the entire God experience for human beings, creatures that have egos, creatures that have supernatural abilities to take what is here and invent it in a way that only serves ourselves, okay, which is the potential for evil, but it's also the potential for great delight. These are the guidelines that we have to basically follow. The rest of it, the rest of all of the morality and the ethics that's part of standard religion, which is very good and worthwhile, it just pops out. And we'll get there because it is possible to re-own religion without all of its previous mistakes from a previous era. And boy, right now, we need it. When politics and scientificism is going crazy, we need healthy, good, spiritual, organized spiritual movements to give their voice. So I'm doing my fair share here and following value relationship priority number one. I'm doing my share, giving my voice. And thank you for coming to God Search, uncover God, discover God, and recover God. And in the process, hey, let's create good for yourself, another, and all others. It is the noblest and most beautiful contribution that religions have had to the world. Okay, so they were a little clumsy because they're human, but we don't want to lose it. We don't want to lose it. This is Michael Shevack for God Search. Come again. Keep coming again. Please go to yourgodsearch.com and converse. Converse. Be a friend. I don't like being alone. Be there. I'll be there for you. Thanks so very, very much. See you next time. Bye-bye.